The Day the Earth Stood Still and Aliens, that'd be totally on topic, but we're not doing that.
Hey, folks. Welcome to the BAMF podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lafferty. Below me, but not below me, you will see Chuck Actual, aka Chuck Rice, and he says everything's fine. Is that true, Chuck?
It's the end of the world as we know it, but I feel fine.
I will accept that answer. And above Chuck, but not above Chuck, is Jacob Blackman, freelance illustrator, heck of a nice guy. I understand he gives a delightful foot massage. Jacob, how are you this fine evening?
You are not incorrect. I have been told by several people to whom I have given massages that they are delightful.
Alrighty, you know what time it is, guys.
Nope.
It's time.
We already had this conversation. And that's why I made that joke. Because I knew that was coming.
And today it is movie talk on BAMF, and we're talking about time loop movies. And today it is movie talk on BAMF, and we're talking about time loop movies.
Woo!
Yay!
So we got a format. Chris McLaughlin gave us a format where everyone talks about their favorite two or three, or at least favorite two or three in a genre. That gives some structure to our chaotic ramblings. So we should probably be professional about this and introduce the genre a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what a responsible man would do in this situation.
Yeah.
That's what Ryan Boitano would do if he was here right now.
What's that got to do with us?
Nothing at all. So Groundhog Day, maybe Bill Murray's best movie, came out several years ago. It's about an asshole weatherman who gets stuck in a time loop.
Is that an oil painting?
It sure looks like it. It's by Ernest Fuller Smith, single edition, size 24 by 36. There's only 63 of them. It's a screen print. And you can get this right now at maddocposters.com for the meager price of $95.
It's basically free.
Basically free. Yeah, it's cheaper than some things you can buy at Starbucks right now.
Correct. So, might as well be nothing.
Might as well be nothing. Barely an inconvenience. So, Bill Murray is trapped in the same day, forced to confront his own issues, can't get out of it. And eventually he grows as a person. It sort of serves as an Eberus, if you will, forcing him to focus on himself and become a decent human being. This has spawned a legion of imitators.
Time loops have existed long since before. There were stories and episodes from like the Twilight Zone that featured time loops. One of the first time I encountered a time loop story was I want to say it was it wasn't Twilight Zone. It was a show that was similar to Twilight Zone that was during the 1980s.
Night Gallery?
Something like that. I think so. But yeah, this guy was reliving the same day over and over again, and it was literally the worst day of his life.
Oh yeah. Also, well, I don't know. Is it time to begin talking about things in the genre that we like?
I'm down with
or
that.
Or are we discussing when it started?
We can do both or either. So basically, it's been around forever. It's gained popularity. The movie I'm showing the poster for right now, Live, Die, Repeat.
Oh yeah,
Edge of
That's
Tomorrow.
The Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah. Since we haven't really set it up, a time loop movie, unlike other time travel films, is a movie where people are experiencing the same loop of time again and again and again. This can be whether they experience the same day. The episode that I originally saw time loop in, he was experiencing like the same 16 hours. So from the time he woke up until 16 hours from the moment he woke up.
Yeah.
It is movie night, movie chat night on BAMF, and today we'll be talking about time loop movies.
Yeah. And of course, the most popular is like we mentioned before, Groundhog Day. Almost everyone has seen Groundhog Day or has heard of Groundhog Day if they haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But there have been a lot of others that have engaged in this genre. There was an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation that did a pretty good time loop episode,
which predates Groundhog Day.
Mm-hmm.
By the way,
it does. That's a good point. I was going to say there's that one movie with Andy Samberg, Palm Springs. Similar idea, but they're stuck at a resort in Palm Springs. There's Boss Level with Frank Grillo from 2020. Looper with Bruce Willis.
Oh my God!
Although I don't know if we can really call that a time loop movie.
It's not really a time loop movie. It's a time travel movie, but it's not a time loop movie.
That's fair. So it's genre,
I saw which I enjoyed was Boss Level.
Yep, with Frank Grillo on Hulu in 2020. Or was going to say Happy Death Day to You. There have been just a bunch. There have been a whole lot of these. It's almost like the way little movie you might have heard of, Die Hard, little indie thing came out, in the 80s, and it spawned a whole cottage industry of copycat movies. In fact, going back to Star Trek, there was even a Star Trek movie that basically was Die Hard on the Enterprise fighting off the Borg. So, but Chuck, you're a happy man. I'm glad to see you happy. Let's talk to you about your favorite movie or your least favorite movie in the time loop genre.
So I have a somewhat weird one. I love the movie Somewhere in Time, Christopher Reeve, and let me explain why I would consider that to be a time loop movie.
Mm-hmm.
He is debuting a play at the beginning of the movie, and an old woman walks up to him and gives him a watch. And then he goes back in time and he gives the watch to her. What?
I have a huge problem with this movie.
What? Is it that it's too awesome?
No. It is a fine time loop.
Uh-huh.
But where does the watch come from?
Yeah, no, we don't know. Matter of fact, Neil deGrasse Tyson has talked to physicists about this who have proclaimed that the watch comes from nowhere.
Yeah.
Actual physicists have declared that watch a Jinn particle because nobody knows. Nobody knows where it came from.
Hey.
Welcome to Time Bullshit.
Hey, Owen.
Hey, folks.
Walking in like Kramer on a Seinfeld episode. We have Owen Casey Stevens. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I just clearly I've got to do something about my computer. So I was like, oh, look, a link from Mike. I'll click this and your system has failed. What? I asked it to do one too many things, apparently.
Yeah, no worries. So we're talking time loop movies, and Chuck just said his favorite one was the Christopher Reeves. What was it called? Somewhere in Time?
Somewhere in Time. Yeah. And again, Christopher Reeve doesn't ever live the same day, but the watch goes through a time loop.
Huh. That's
kind of interesting. I'm there for it.
Hey, found the movie poster. Oh, look at that. That's a big 70s, early 80s vibe right there.
It's a big, gooey love story. It'll make you a better man to watch that movie.
I once read a music review of an Ozzy Osbourne album, and it was a free weekly back in Indianapolis, and the guy said, do some bong rips and listen to this album, you'll be a better person for it.
Probably true.
I never forgot that. But yeah, all right, that is one I hadn't heard of before. I thought I knew all of Christopher Reeve's work. That is pretty cool. Owen.
Yeah.
You just arrived, sir. Would you like to share with us your favorite or least favorite entry in the time loop genre?
I'm not sure I have a least favorite. And it depends on how strict we want to get on time loop, right? I mean, there's the classic Groundhog Day, which is a single time loop over and over and over. And I think my favorite movie maybe not favorite anymore, but for a long time, it was Yurusei Yatsura, Beautiful Dreamer, which is an anime from the 80s. It's like the second Yurusei Yatsura anime. And the characters have to live through the day before a festival at their school over and over and over. And that's the basic plot. And there are several of them that know they're reliving it, which makes the dynamic very, very different from Groundhog Day, where he's the only person that knows he's reliving it. I enjoyed that for a long time, and in fact, since that is from the 80s, I don't remember exactly what year. But when I did see Groundhog Day, my first thought was like, "Oh, this is like that anime," which apparently I was the only person in North America to have that thought. But there are some other really good, strong time loop movies, and I think a bunch of them came out, in the years after Groundhog Day. They had Happy Death Day, which was a lot of fun from my point of view, and Happy Death Day 2, which I thought was just as much fun, but was not nearly as popular. And apparently they have all of the scripting for Happy Death Day 3. But in Happy Death Day, the loop is she gets killed. Mm-hmm. And then she wakes up at the beginning of the loop, and she tries to not get killed again. Because A, it sucks, and B, she figures if she can make it through a day without dying, that will allow her to break the loop and move on normally with her life. And they never explain what's going on in that one. Why is this loop occurring? Just like in Groundhog Day, they never explain why it's occurring, which in my opinion makes the sequel a lot of fun because it takes a massive left turn with the same characters and introduces a whole bunch of new, in my opinion, very fun concepts, which I won't go into detail about because it's such an underwatched film. I suspect that might be a spoiler for people who could in fact still enjoy it.
Exactly. Fair enough. So that first picture I was showing, was that the picture? Was that the poster for the anime?
That's the anime. I'm not sure if that's the exact movie or not, but
okay.
They had a whole series. I basically think of it as the thing that caused both the Comic Ninja High School and a lot of the shenanigans in the Big Eye Small Mouth core role-playing game. A lot of those were inspired by the classic Yurusei Yatsura.
Mm-hmm. So it's their fault. That's what you're saying.
I mean, if you want to say fault, sure.
Apparently I do.
But,
it is one of the earliest animes I can think of that focuses on wacky hijinks that happen around high school characters.
Well, and so many of the high school characters are, amazingly important or powerful, or there are aliens and ninja masters, but the main character is just this guy. A whole bunch of the comedy of that entire show comes from the fact that the main character is an entirely average, normal high school student around whom rotates all of these intergalactic, interdimensional, intersupernatural shenanigans.
Yeah.
And he frequently has a reaction of, why is this happening to me?
I just want to go home. I just want to have dinner. Yeah.
Well, and later, I just want to go on a date with this nice flying alien girl.
Yeah.
If that sounds fun to anyone, I recommend both the anime series in general and that one specifically.
All right. Mr. Blackman.
Yep.
How about you?
Well, it would be easy enough to say Groundhog Day, but honestly, I think my favorite time loop film has got to be the 1998 German classic Run, Lola, Run.
Oh, yeah.
In which, for those who are not familiar with it, it is this amazing German movie where the same 20 minutes is relived over and over again as the main character Lola is trying to obtain 100,000 Deutschmarks to save her boyfriend from being killed by the mob.
Yeah, that's a fun movie. Often parodied, often imitated.
It's got a great soundtrack, and not only that, she's a superhero. She has powers in this movie. It's amazing.
Yeah, It almost seemed like they were making her a video game character, the way some of her powers activated. But yeah, it was a good one. And as someone who likes the German language, it's great to find a German movie you can pick up in North America that doesn't involve either World War II or the Holocaust. So I'm a big fan of it for that reason too, because that can be hard to come by. Is that your number one? Is that your number three?
That's probably my number one.
Okay.
After that, I don't know. I honestly rather liked the other one I recently mentioned, Boss Level.
Mhm.
I had a lot of fun with that. That was a fun movie.
Boss Level very much knows what it was and did not try and get above that. It was like, okay, here's our kind of goofy premise, and we will now have as much fun with that premise as we can.
Yes.
Well, God damn it. You took my favorite.
Oh?
Yeah, I was going to say Run Lola Run. So
I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't stop it from being your favorite.
So
No, it completely invalidates it. It can't be your favorite movie anymore, Mike. You're ordinary. Enjoy it.
yeah. We're doing this is something I'm seeing a lot in horror movies. We mentioned Death Day. Camp Slaughter is another one, 2005. Yep. It's a bunch of kids in the 80s stuck in the loop where there's a mass killer killing people at their summer camp, apparently.
And Camp Slaughter was one that I saw cold. I had no idea what the premise was when I watched it. I was turning it on because it seemed to be sort of a Cabin in the Woods style self-aware parody of a horror movie. And that was all I knew going in because I was watching it on demand. And I would say that it's not the best of movies, but going into it cold, finding out how it worked was enough to justify the time spent watching it. Similarly, there's a movie called Arq, A-R-Q, that I went into cold because I wanted to watch some sci-fi, and at the time, with the streaming service I had, that was literally the only sci-fi movie I had not already seen once. And it also has a unexpected, although in its case, very well explained time loop that is integral to the plot. And again, it has multiple characters, some of which are aware of the time loop, some of which aren't, and it's not necessarily obvious at the beginning which ones are and which ones aren't. And it's also, an action espionage film, which I think is interesting. Has anyone mentioned the idea that Looper is a time loop movie with a huge time loop?
I tried to submit Looper as a time loop movie, and I was shot down by these two gentlemen. So no.
But it is a time loop movie, right? It's just that the time loop is over the course of decades.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have the same treadmill effect that we've seen in some of the other ones, but yeah, there is a time loop.
I can't deal with Looper because of that fake chin that they put on what's his name. It just I'm like staring at it every moment that he's on screen and not paying attention to a word that's being said.
It's a short that I was trying to look up, and I did not manage.
Russian Doll, Netflix, Natasha Lyonne.
Oh, Russian Doll is excellent. Yes, that's a great time loop.
Yeah,
I would submit that as my favorite since Jacob stole my
ruthlessly stole Run Lola Run from me.
No.
If you have not seen Russian Doll, skip ahead so that we don't spoil it for you, because it's been long enough. Spoilers is legit for us to talk about, but save yourself. Skip ahead a bit. But I like Russian Doll. I think it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I thought it was great. Do you guys remember what was? I mean, just set up for anyone that's seen it. She's a big game developer in Manhattan. If you live in the same party over and over, where she dies, and she discovers another dude who's stuck in the same kind of loop and is not sure why. And, you guys, did they ever reveal what caused the loop there? Honestly,
Not really.
Not that I recall.
It's never the reason for the loop is never explained. Just like the reason for the loop in Groundhog Day is never really explained. It's just he eventually becomes a better man and the loop stops. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of theories as to why it happens. A lot of people believe it's because of Ned Ryerson being the devil.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have heard that theory.
The theory I heard is Ned Ryerson, the guy who tries to sell him insurance at the very beginning of the movie, is the devil. and he causes Bill Murray's character to go into the loop. And what happens at the very end, on the very last day, he buys insurance, and suddenly the time loop stops.
Are you saying he sold his soul?
I'm not saying he sold his soul. I'm just saying he engaged in some sort of commerce.
Because to me, the reason I don't buy that he's the devil is because he breaks out of the loop by being good. Like he lives a perfect day. The devil should want the opposite of that. So maybe Ned Ryerson is God.
It's possible.
Another time loop movie that I actually enjoyed more than I expected to. It actually came out a little bit before Boss Level, was Palm Springs.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
And the thing I like about Palm Springs is that one of the characters shows the other one and says, "This is one of those time loop situations you might have heard of." And that is the first self-referential time loop reference I have seen in a time loop movie. Mm-hmm. And of course, like there was an episode of Stargate that has a time loop. If we start going into episodes of television shows, I think we'd find a bunch more.
Boy, there was an episode of Xena Warrior Princess where she had there was one day where she was just so frustrated she killed everybody in the town, went back to bed, and then they solved things, after that. But yeah, we mentioned the TNG time loop.
Wait, what?
What?
So Xena just like quick saved and killed all the NPCs in the village, and they made an episode out of it.
I remember. Well, it was in one of the many time loops. She had been in a bunch of time loops already before this, and she was so frustrated that one of the days she killed everyone.
It was like a 10-second loop, and it was just a 10-second scene where she kills Gabrielle and Sam Emery's little brother. So, and then you could have missed it if you went to the bathroom during that scene. So yeah, it was that quick. Hang on, I will be right back, guys.
Mm-hmm. We lost our mic.
Oh no! Will it loop back? Who knows?
I feel like there's a "your mic is muted" joke here somewhere, but
there totally is.
Don't call it a comeback.
Our mic is unmuted.
He's been here for years.
Y'all forgot about Dre. Sorry, that reference doesn't make any sense in this context, but hey Chuck, I got our book in the mail.
Sweet.
We cannot see it.
It's a stealth book. It's gonna be a big thing.
It is absolutely.
It's a book of invisibility. Jeez. All right, good.
You gotta get
to launch my criminal career. I'm just gonna hold it up and just walk into banks.
You do not see me. Ah, that's fantastic. That looks great.
Look at that cover. Yeah, this is Stormclick art, and it's Damn It, which stands for Dwarven Assault, Mining, and Neutralization Interception Team. Space Dwarves, Rock and Stone.
Damn it.
So, yeah. Coming to Kickstarter sometime in 2025. We'll figure it out. But,
okay. We'll figure it out.
Well, I'm doing a Savage Worlds version too. So, can't do anything simply. So.
How thin is the ice that I'm walking on if every time we talk about this book, I want to say Rock and Stone?
Getting sued by Ghost Ship Studios would probably be the best PR move I can imagine. Raising our profile and driving sales. So
we have the Cybertronic spree on this show. If we could get Windrose to be on this show, I would be delighted.
It would be nice. They seem like nice Italian fellows. So
if you want to get sued, Mike, we can probably arrange for that.
Do you know somebody in the legal departments of these various organizations? Or?
I can find someone in the legal departments of these various organizations. That's not that hard.
Do you want me to start saying stuff that you'll need to bleep?
No, it's okay. I don't think that anyone actually owns the concept of dwarves in space, which is basically what this is.
And if anyone does own the concept of dwarves in space, Starfinder would be in trouble, for example.
Yeah, and then Warhammer 40K. And
I was about to say, it's no more stupid than Warhammer 40K claiming there are no space marines that they don't own.
Yeah.
Well, they backed off that claim. Yeah. I suspect a lot of those claims are knee-jerk, right? I mean, And here we're getting a little off from time loop, except that this stuff keeps happening over and over and over.
Yes, it's the time loop we really live in.
Yeah, I first ran into the concept of Space Marine when reading Lensman books, which were written in the 1930s. So, and I'm not even saying that's where it was first used. I'm just saying that's definitely proof of prior art. And then there was the hullabaloo, and people thought that TSR was trying to trademark and copyright Nazis because Lucasfilm made them put that notice on the Indiana Jones role-playing game.
So Lucasfilm, Lucasfilm claims to own Android, so why not?
No, they claim to own Droid.
Yeah.
And any use of Droid except Android. Android predates them. But Droid, not only they claim to use, but the Droid cell phone licenses the name from Lucasfilm.
Yeah, this is why I have. There have been times with our space setting Pew Pew that I have told Mike we can't use droid. You have to call them robots or bots or something or anything else. You can't call them droids.
Yeah, we went with drone for Starfinder.
Mm.
And then later we had SROs, which are sentient robotic organisms.
So this particular
cover shows up much better when you don't have another starship background as your background.
Yeah. I mean, this is Kickstarter exclusive. You can't buy it on Drive-Thru-RPG, but you can see we're homaging a well-known cover of another science fiction RPG with that.
I enjoyed that art. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. I had a good. And that one's went out to backers this week. It'll be up for sale on Tuesday. So, yay.
So to get us back on topic, I will have you know that I once ran a time loop episode on a game session.
Nice.
Tell me all about that.
Several years ago, when I was running a second edition Mutants and Masterminds game that was based on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
This was called the Teddy and Jinx game because the main character who was the Slayer was Theodora, aka Teddy, who was from the British Isles, and Jinx was a local American witch, and they were the main characters. We had a birthday episode, and to set up some of the events that happened in Jinx's backstory, her birth was the result of a cult trying to create a perfect host that would eventually embody the demon god that they worshipped, which is why she was magically powerful.
That tracks.
So before all this happens, the cult is secretly maneuvering things in the background to make sure things like Jinx stays alive long enough to reach the event that will happen with her possession, and give her a fun, good life. And one of the things that happens in the course of the game is when she turns 16, one of the cultists puts a genie in her birthday cake candle, so that when she makes a birthday wish, it'll happen. I had no idea what the wish was going to be, but I asked the player character, "What is Jinx going to wish for?" And Jinx wished, "I wish every day was going to be as good as today."
Wow.
So I immediately was like, all right, we're doing a time loop episode. And they went through 4 days where I managed to actually keep things together and logical over the course of what happened on the same day over and over and over again before they were actually able to figure out what happened, get to the bakery and free the genie, convincing the genie that it needed to free itself with a wish that they could make, because genies hate being trapped, and it was trapped in a loop of its own making because of the wish. So they convinced the genie to give them a free wish so that they could get out of the time loop.
So how'd you keep it fun? And I mean, when they get to the end of the day, how you just say, "Sorry guys, you didn't solve the puzzle." Like after the third or fourth, iteration, that's got to get frustrating for the players, right?
It like most things. It's all about how you present the scenario, and for this, it was a mystery scenario, like a lot of Star Trek episodes. What's going on? What caused it? How do we stop it?
Yeah, I mean,
And ultimately, that's what it was about.
if I was going to try and pull a time loop, and I've done similar things, but never a time loop, as a role playing game scenario, I believe I would start with privately a list of, okay, here's, let's call it 30-minute blocks, and here are the locations of the adventure. And I will and I will, in advance, decide roughly what's happening at each location in each 30-minute block. Then, as the players go through, I will mark where they are at any given moment so that I will consistently be able to tell them where they go. And if they make a change early on, I will be like, if it's Mike and Jacob get in a fight in hour 4, but in hour 1, Mike is setting up for a podcast and the player characters shoot him, I will be able to tell when they get to hour 4, Jacob won't be getting in a fight with anyone. And then I can decide what is Jacob doing at that moment. And if it's, Jacob sits in his chair bemoaning that he doesn't have any friends in real life, and everyone realizes, oh, Mike is actually Jacob's friend, and they just got into a fight because their friends do that sometimes, and then they'll have a piece of information. So I think pre-setting some decisions and being good at being able to make notes later, like, if you've decided that there are 7 primary locations, and they're like, you know what, we're all going to sit outside the Circle K, and you didn't have a Circle K set up, you can add it to your notes, okay, Circle K, strange things are afoot. Got it. And that way, the players don't have to go through the same stuff over and over and over and over. You can just say, okay, you played through this day. Next days come. What are you all doing? And if they say, well, okay, we'll do the same things. You can say, great. The same day happens. Now it resets. What are you guys going to do? Oh, all right. Well, I guess I'm going to go ahead and go over to the school instead of staying here at the computer lab. You can say, great. So everything goes normally until you get to the school, and then you can just play through the new events.
Well, and it's kind of like running any puzzle too, in a way, because the players, like, as long as they're engaged and as long as they feel like there is a solution, that you're not just being a jerk by giving them an unsolvable puzzle. Jacob, I have to say, I'm blown away that you did this spontaneously, though.
I was pretty amazed at it too. I had no idea I had it in me, but it worked out. The players had a great time, and
the muse visited you in the moment.
I was on the spot with it that night. It was great.
Yeah, because that's always the scariest thing, is to just hand a player a wish,
mm-hmm.
and then say, okay, go.
Yeah.
So did you say you had a published adventure with this conceit? Or did I mishear you?
No, he said he ran it.
No, it was just a session that I ran off the cuff. I didn't know what the wish was going to be.
Yeah.
So I ran the entire day, and then
the player didn't know
the player
that their wish would come true.
Yeah, made the wish at the end of the day, and that's when I decided to do a time loop.
Yeah.
And the rest of the session was about the time loop.
Well, that is cool. I kind of would like. I've never heard of a published adventure using this idea. We came close to doing one at Painting Goat Games a few years ago, but the freelancer, God bless him, never turned into the manuscript. So
it is possible to do something like that, but you would have to script so much, just like minute by minute, hour by hour. For example, there was a game called Alma Mater many decades ago, and the main adventure in the back of the book is a party. and the events of the party are listed. It's like at this time, these people arrive. At this time, these people arrive. At this time, a fight breaks out between this boyfriend and girlfriend. At this,
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about FASA did an amazing mega adventure called the Triangle Campaign ages and ages ago. And there's 4 separate plots that take place in a region called the Triangle, and they all are happening over the course of a year. And the players can happily just like zoom around, and you're just like, okay, so on the news today, this Romulan ambassador ship blew up, and the players are just like, don't care about that. And that's a whole like quarter of the campaign that they could get invested in, or they could just turn the channel when that Romulan shenanigans keep coming on the news. And so, yeah, I mean, I think people used to do campaigns this way more often. I think it's not more popular because you're wasting quote unquote material. That like you've got interesting ideas happening that may or may not be engaged with.
I suspect a lot of people do still run games like that. It's just that there are so many more people gaming than there used to be. And there is so much more adventure support than there used to be. Paizo alone has put out, hundreds of adventures, many of them linked into giant 6
adventure paths,
which that's mega adventures on a number of topics, but there are also Star Wars adventures and Stargate and Star Trek and multiple iterations of all these games and running things where if the players aren't engaging with your material, then you're probably having to make up whatever they engage with, and not everyone is great at making things up off the cuff, and B, not everyone has the time. I have played in a few games in the recent, call it decade, where the players are like, hey, we think we're going to go do this. And the GM says, great, you guys can do that. It's a perfectly reasonable thing. I have nothing prepared for it. So either your characters can go deal with that in a month or two when I have time to make something up, or we can say you do it and you can come back to the material that I already have an adventure for. And, a GM should not have to slave away at 100 things. Now, personally, if the players go off hearing off something I'm not prepared for, I, for instance, own all those Paizo adventure paths. I got PDFs of them. So I can go, okay, so you guys are going somewhere I totally didn't expect. Well, here, I'm going to grab this thing, which has a totally different MacGuffin, and we'll just sub in, okay, so you're supposed to be fighting a dangerous giant. What I've got for the stats is a T-Rex. Well, I'll just take the T-Rex and say he's a giant with a great big bat instead of his bite. You guys will never know, and on we go. But not everyone's good at that sort of off-the-cuff modification either. Though, Mike was talking about a published time loop adventure. I think a published time loop adventure, if you picked a popular enough genre, could be a big hit. What you're going to get into is a potential problem that I think the best way to do that module would in fact be with, here's a timeline grid with the events listed out, sort of true adventure style. Here's A1, A2, A3, and A4, which means you got to get pretty detailed. So, the one set in Greyhawk is probably going to be different than the one set in Galarian is going to be different from the one in Galartha, right? And all of those are going to be utterly different to one set in Aliens. So...
Yeah, I was talking to Ross Watson, another game developer, like most of us in this call are, and he was playing in a 5th Ed game where there was some kind of wild magic explosion at the tavern, and they get, when they went to stop there for the night, they got caught in a time loop, and they had to go figure out what had happened and how they, reverse the effect of the wild magic and whatnot. So, it was kind of like a tiny version of Groundhog Day in D&D, But I mean, I mainly write modern and superhero adventures. So that's what I want to say it. But if you want to do all the work for this, it seems like you'd want to pick a market that would really appreciate it, and that would probably be 5th Ed. That's the horrible commercial part of my brain talking. But
Except there really isn't much in the way of time magic in that setting. You have much more opportunity for things like time loop in a contemporary or especially a superhero setting where time travel is an established thing.
Well, I mean, there was chronomancy for AD&D. That was a big hit. And I personally have done a fair number of time-related books for Pathfinder.
Oh, that's right. You've done a number of those that I've done art for. I should remember that.
But, I think if you set it up, you could set it up as a modern setting and say, hey, here's how to adapt this to heroes. Here's how to adapt this to Bureau 13 agents. Here's how to adapt this to Men in Black.
The hero system tried doing that for a time, kind of during their heyday, where they would be like, this is how you would run this for Justice Inc. This is how you would run this for Champions.
Right.
Because they were trying to be a universal system that was still going to have modules.
Yeah, I did a few as a small publisher, I did a few games, Extreme Earth, Savage World, Mutants and Masterminds, Icons, Fate, and the wrangling of freelancers and getting everything together, and just, oh God, it was so much more work than it was worth.
It was super fun and painted you in glory, I'm guessing.
There is no
and
glory.
Money rained from the ceiling.
Money trickled. It was kind of like if a pipe burst above me, but it was a very small pipe, maybe a mouse's apartment. So it wasn't. Yeah, it was a fun idea. I liked planning it. I didn't like executing it, but yeah. I'm feeling a little grumpy as a publisher right now. I just blew my budget on a book that's not out yet. So, and honestly, I don't know about you guys, but sales have been off for me this year. So, well, my Kickstarters are doing okay, but actual sales through drive-through have not been great since the
drive-through is broken. I feel like. I mean, you can see publisher behavior altering. So, for example, featured product messages, they're telling you they're broken. They're telling you don't buy featured product messages because they're not showing up. And as a result, everyone's flooding my inbox with emails because I'm that guy that's like, I bought your book. I want to get all your marketing emails because that's how I roll. And there's so many more of them than there used to be from people like Bloat Games because that's kind of the only way he can reach customers now.
I mean, I have always been email-based for Rogue Genius Games. And I have built that drive-through email list up above 10,000 people accepting messages, right? And I try and keep it to no more than one a week because the last thing I want to do is have fewer and fewer people each week. But as a result, my sales have been within the range of consistent, I would say. Now, it's a little hard to tell because last year and this year, I have not been putting out as much product as a result of various issues. But when I do, I've been
right there with you. Yeah.
And the Kickstarter have kept doing okay.
And so many people, though, myself included, for example, have always kind of had good success running banner ads, running the featured product messages. And that is 100% dead. Like on the new site, they just don't work at all. And so it's only the people that are still on the legacy site, which if you're having this much of a problem with the new site, why don't you just turn off the new site and let everyone go to the legacy site that still has full functionality? But apparently that's not allowed.
Yeah. Maybe I start using, I've always been nervous about using the email list because I don't want to alienate people.
But I think if you do it sparingly, I think it's a good idea.
I've used it once in the last 3 years, and that was a guy from TTRPG told me I really needed to. It was for Cocaine Owlbear. He said,
there you go.
If you've only used it once in the past 3 years, who cares if you alienate people? You're not using the list anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. But I've been scared to use it every week, but maybe I should start doing something like that. Because
you could do it almost like a newsletter. Do it once a month.
Yeah, that would
say, hey, I've released 5 things in the last month. Here they are.
Yeah, I normally release a product every week. If I don't do an email. So most of my emails are, hey, here's a thing I've released. And, normally, like we do, I think we got 5 things this week. One 52 and 52 product for 4 different game systems and one Mutants and Masterminds. So we send that to everyone. But like if we only put out a Mutant and Mastermind product, I will usually on the email select, hey, send this to any customer of mine that has ever bought any M&M product. So I am not plastering all of my Pathfinder players with M&M material.
Do you ever feel like you need to expand it to like offer some other content so the reader will be like, oh, it's gaming stuff, I don't care. Like, oh, here's my gaming releases and here's a brownie recipe.
Right. You can try it.
Here's my gaming releases and here's a picture of my feet.
So it's Dragonlance.
It worked with Gingerbread Kaiju. We can send out some recipes.
Yeah, we've got a recipe in Gingerbread Kaiju.
Yeah, it's a good one too. But I really like that game. I keep thinking I should do a Discord server where we can do like monthly actual plays of fun games like that. You can play in an evening. But
well, and I use my drive-through whenever I've got a crowdfunding campaign that is going to be fulfilled through drive-through. I use my email list to I do it the way that drive-through tells you to do it. There's a specific way. I don't send it out; they do, but I make sure that a notification goes to them. The other thing I will frequently do is do a preview product for the Kickstarter because I can put that up on drive-through and send that out to everybody.
That's smart.
So even if I'm not fulfilling through Kickstarter, I will frequently do, hey, this is going to be 200 funny cartoons. Here are 2 of them, and that free preview product has a URL to the Kickstarter. It's not an email because I'm not allowed to do that. But the preview product, I can say, hey, here's a free product, doesn't cost you anything, 2 funny comics, and in that thing of 2 funny comics, there's a direct link to the Kickstarter.
Okay, that is cool. I should do that because I have various Kickstarters I'm looking at doing in the new year. So yeah, that would be a bad idea.
Also, do you poke your old Kickstarters about your new project?
Yeah. If it's Savage Worlds and did more Savage Worlds, I'll say, hey, you should check this out. And you liked these writers and this artist last time. Well, I got them here again. So that's actually where I get the most follows. In the last year, Facebook ads used to be really reliable for me. The last year,
yeah, I've never had luck with Facebook ads, but even people that have told me they've always had luck are telling me in the past year they don't anymore.
It also, yeah, I am one of those. They used to work pretty well for me, and it's a process that I understand because I used to do them for Mayfair Games. May she rest in peace. But yeah, it's way harder to break through now, and I don't claim to know what the problem is, but I suspect it's a signal to noise ratio type issue. I've heard there's a lot of bots running around making ads these days. So
yeah, it is problematic. Hey, we are off topic. What the fuck? Okay. Time loop movies.
See, what you got to do now for the future video is cut here and just go back to the beginning of the entire video.
Yes, 100%. Then this has all been on topic, stealth topic, on topic the entire time. So I am a huge fan of the Star Trek: The Next Generation episode that has come up a couple of times, Cause and Effect, in which, in classic Star Trek fashion, they try to tell you what is causing the time loop. And of course, also in classic Star Trek fashion, it's complete bullshit. It's a temporal causality loop caused by collision with a quantum superstring. And you're like, my God, Brent Spiner got paid real American money to say that out loud. But
the stupider the line, the more the actor ought to get paid probably to say it.
Yes, and he was probably well compensated. But it's interesting because I actually am such a fan of that episode. The writers, Brandon Braga wrote it. who is kind of their time travel guy. Like if there's a random TNG episode about time travel, it's probably has Brandon Braga's fingerprints on the murder weapon. And he wanted to go really dark. He wanted it to be revealed that they were stuck in the time loop for 100 years. And the suits were like, no, absolutely not. You lunatic. Absolutely not. And so it winds up, they say 17 days in the episode that they were stuck. And the NPC ship that they save, the
Fraser Crane.
Yeah, the movie era ship commanded by Kelsey Grammer, that they were stuck for 100 years, and that's why they're 100 years out of sync.
You know, I hate to say it, but 10, 20 years from now, Paramount gets desperate again for content, and they just buy everyone's license rights, and we get to see the story of Kelsey Grammer, Starship Captain. I will probably...
I would do that. So apparently they wanted Cheers filmed next door to Star Trek, and they also wanted Kirstie Alley to be in that shot as the first officer, Savick. And
I think she probably didn't come back because of what happened to her.
No, so she says that it was just makeup. She did not have time to do the Vulcan makeup and then get it off and go back to Cheers. That's what she has said.
Well, that's probably true. But,
so we are horribly off subject again.
Yeah.
We briefly touched the subject, and then we went herring off in another direction.
You know, right. Star Wars.
So we're gamers, is what
Star
you're
Wars
saying.
had a time loop. Star Wars Rebels. It was a big ass time loop, but Ahsoka dies.
Yes.
Bring her back in that one time travel episode, and then Ahsoka gets her own live action series years later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There was a lot of controversy over that, thinking that because Ahsoka was brought back, and when that happens, that was going to be a catalyst that would make all of the sequel movies go away.
Yes, well, that was a conspiracy by fans who believe that they have the power to make all of the sequel movies go away, and they don't.
Yeah, and the fact that they are making a Rey Skywalker movie, which has been announced and is in a time slot.
No, it's not in a time slot. They pulled it today.
Oh, they pulled it today?
Geez.
They pulled it today. It is currently not scheduled.
Okay. Well, I was going to say they were wrong because it has a time slot, but apparently it doesn't have a time slot anymore.
Nope, its time slot is now being taken by Ice Age 6.
So what you're saying is that they've won. They're right. That's what you're saying. This truly is the darkest timeline.
Oh, it's the darkest timeline. They can ruin stuff that hasn't been made yet, but they will never get them to retroactively remove established canon.
I like that idea that Disney has gotten so bad at Star Wars that they're ruining things before they come out now.
Well, and they don't need to release a movie, right? They're making tons of Star Wars movie money without releasing a movie. Movies are expensive, and apparently everyone will bitch about them, so why bother?
Well, Acolyte was also expensive, and there was lots of bitching. So,
yeah.
But Acolyte's more hours.
Right.
More hours, more scenes, more characters to make toys out of.
And they will eventually turn a profit on it.
Yeah,
also.
Absolutely.
Well,
I don't think it's possible to actually lose money on a Star Wars product right now. You may have to wait longer and longer and longer before you turn a profit. You may not turn the amount of profit you would have if you'd taken whatever money you had and made a good whatever it is or popular whatever it is. But I don't think you can lose money unless we're talking about licensors who pay so much in licensing that they can lose money easily. I don't think Lucasfilm can lose money on a Star Wars product.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing.
How much do they make and how long does it take?
Yeah, all those licenses are basically found money for them, right? Like the Star Wars video games, Lucas isn't putting any money in. They're just cashing a check.
Okay, well, what I'm suggesting to you is it'd be hilarious if someone did a parody of the Star Wars situation where they kept announcing and then yanking movies, trilogies, etc. Because there have been so many announced.
I think you're describing The Onion right now, Mike. I think
that's fair.
The Onion's going to be busy because they just bought InfoWars.
That's been tied up in the courts for a bit. What's his name's gonna?
Of course he is. Of course, yeah.
With the $5
going to stop suing people.
The black, gosh darn it, the person in charge of selling everything, the bankruptcy attorney signed off on it. And the reason he's objecting is that they were able to afford it because some of the Sandy Hook families agreed to reduce what they were owed by an amount that is then credited towards the Onion buying it. And that is legal and well established and still does what the bankruptcy attorney's job is to do, and that is to get as much money towards those settlements as possible.
Right. They just chose to direct those monies to to the Onion owning InfoWars, which I can see why they would find that idea amazing.
Yeah, they always said it wasn't about the money; it was about shutting down InfoWars and Alex Jones.
Yeah.
So back to time loop movies. There's one I really like we haven't mentioned. I don't know if anyone else here has seen it, and that is The Map of Tiny Perfect Things.
I have not even heard
I
of
am
this
not
movie.
familiar with this.
So I don't want to spoiler it. I will, in broad scale, say that it is a strong time loop and that it is like a day that keeps looping. It's got multiple characters. It's interesting in that they don't all enter the time loop at the same time. So you've got sort of the veteran time looper and the new time looper.
Right.
And it does a lot of the things you're talking about that most time loop movies don't do. It spends a lot of time going to different places and doing, yes. And it is a romance, but it's a great sci-fi movie, totally aside from being a romance. And the concept, which the movie is named after, of the map of tiny perfect things, is, I think, one of the things I really would have liked to see more time loop movies do. Because if you're stuck in a time loop for years or centuries, I feel like you would end up doing this just to not go crazy. So since none of you have seen it, I will actually not spoil it for your sake, but for you and our viewers, I recommend not only watching it, but watch it with the eye of a GM. Watch it and think to yourself, what was the thought process that leads to this being the way this story works? Because I think there's some really interesting options there that other time loop movies have not, to the best of my knowledge, explored, at least in any great depth.
I'll check that out. It's on Amazon Prime, so it's easy to come by.
Yeah.
I wonder if the way to do this right is really to make it a mini campaign or even a full campaign.
I think it would be easy as a solo campaign. I think the other way to do it right, would be to do it the way boss level does. Right? We're just going to say, okay, you keep doing this encounter until you beat it, no matter how many times you die, and we'll have the same start point for it each time. And then once you beat this encounter, we are not going to make you play through it anymore. Okay, you've beaten that one, now you're going on to the next one, and you can make however many changes you want to your prep for doing that one. So I played in the IFGS for many years, which is the International Fantasy Game Society. So it was based off the society from Dream Park, the novels, and it was given permission to use the actual Dream Park novel society name. And it was a LARP. It was Boppo D&D Weapons in the Woods. And there's a concept there called the resurrection game, where if a character dies and you really want them to come back and no one could afford to raise them with the normal raise dead rules, which require you to be there that day, someone can write a game where that character gets resurrected. And so my wife, LJ, her character died, and people wanted to bring her back. She was very popular. So a friend of ours wrote a resurrection game, and that resurrection game was going through the most memorable encounters she had been through in previous adventures. So we had a group of adventurers going through her memories, and we were all, mid to high level characters, but we're going through her most memorable encounters in order. So the first thing we ran into was the end fight of her first game, and it was first through third level, and we're like 7th and 8th level now. So we just wiped it out. And it was really satisfying because that was a hard encounter when we went through it the first time, and several people had not beaten it. And now they were on this team, and we just annihilate that. And then there were other encounters where we were like, oh, kill that guy. He's pretending that he's tied to the tree, but he's actually the poison mastermind. So we knew what was going on, and we got to go through all these encounters. And it was a really fun game for that reason that we got to revisit this.
Yeah, that sounds really satisfying for the players.
Super satisfying. And it was really easy for the game writer because he literally wrote people that had written those other adventures and said, hey, can I have the game rules for this encounter? Yeah. Since LJ was only going to show up at the very, very end, she was allowed to help write the adventure. So she just said, in this game, this is the most memorable encounter. In that game, that's the most memorable encounter. So that, that's as close as I've ever gotten to get to play through a time loop style actual game. And even then, it was only doing this one encounter again. Although I have occasionally ended up playing through adventures in organized play settings that I played through before. When I worked at Paizo, at one point I was at PaizoCon late at night, and someone was a player short for having enough people to play through an adventure, and I'd played through it before, and they're like, well, can you, just come loan a body? So, I literally borrowed the concept of Thrud the Barbarian and told them, look, Thrud does not trust himself to make any decision. It always goes bad. So you point at something and tell Thrud what to do, and Thrud will do his best to do it. And so it let me go through that adventure with absolutely no creative input to what the players were doing. But if someone pointed at something and said, Thrud, kill, I still got to have the fun of having my character run up there and kill something.
I really like the idea that you threw out for a boss level type campaign of like, you're a 5th level party. I'm going to put together a challenge rating 10 encounter, and you just get to keep doing it until you make it.
Jacob and my friend Carl was running a Starfinder game at one point, and he was experimenting with mythic character rules for Starfinder.
Okay.
And so one of the things he set up was that our characters had been connected to this sort of dream entity that was trying to figure out how to destroy us. And he had this dreamscape. And every time we got it, not every time, but frequently when we got a new level or got a new set of powers or whatever, we would end up in this same dreamscape, which Carl had carefully set up to be incredibly tough and getting stronger and stronger and stronger, that he used as the dipstick for what encounters we could defeat. So we kept starting over at the first one over and over and over until we beat it. And then we would start over and we're told, okay, you beat that, and then you're at this encounter. We'd keep doing that one over until we beat it. And our characters were, it was a mystery thing. We were slowly gathering information that Carl sprinkled through. Why do we keep having this dream as a group? And, we knew it was a dream with the other thing, that apparently if we died, we died, but we weren't burning resources and such. So we were like happy, okay, I'm going to go ahead and load my plus 12 shotgun shell of demon slaying, pull the trigger and see what happens. But it was useful for us because it let us try some boss level encounters knowing that the consequences were reduced. But it only happened occasionally, so we didn't have the frustration of hitting our heads against it again and again and again and again. We'd do it, and then, a few months later, after many sessions, we'd do it again and see if we could get further. And it was useful for Carl because it let him see, what can these characters actually do with these rules I'm playtesting? How much more powerful than their CR are they? What do I need to have to be able to actually challenge them? And I thought that was a really clever idea, which I'm glad I remembered, because until this second, and you talking about me suggesting the boss level stuff, I had not considered that a time loop, but it really was a form of gaming time loop.
That's pretty cool.
Mike?
Say what?
How late are we going?
I was going to wrap it up right now.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
My kid keeps coming to the door wanting me to go draw with him, and it's been like 2 or 3 times. I've been like, I'm still in the air, So, yeah. But this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys coming out. This is I really enjoyed this conversation.
You need a big red light on your door, Mike, so they'll know.
My experience is that if the kid's wanting you to come draw, a red light is not going to stop, and shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Compared to hanging out with us weirdos, he should go be with his kid.
That is fair. He's only young for so long. There'll be a time very soon where he's like, nah, Dad, I'm good.
Yeah, he'll only be young for so long, and we will be old weirdos forever.
That's dire.
You want dire? 401k. In the grim darkness of the future, there is no retirement.
Yeah, I got a brother who's running a company out in the Bay Area, and he's supposed to be a big shot. And he calls me one day. He's like, talking about retirement. I'm like, what do you want? He's like, you got money? I'm like, I don't want to have this conversation with you, but I got a few things here and there. He's like, I got nothing. You're in your mid 50s, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Sell your house in San Francisco, move to Nebraska, hope for the best. I mean, damn, it's because it's coming fast.
So right now, that's a fine retirement plan, actually.
Yeah. I mean, as long as the housing market doesn't collapse.
Well, even if it collapses, it's still going to be far more expensive at post-collapse in San Francisco than it is in Nebraska. I have a retirement plan. Work myself to death. That is my retirement plan.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea if I'm ever going to be able to get to retire. I have a Roth IRA that I am feeding monthly, but I don't know if it's ever going to be able to get to the limit where I'll actually be able to retire and live off of it.
Jacob, I'm afraid I do know the answer to that question, and you don't want to hear it.
I'm confident the answer is no.
All right, so having been a huge downer.
If you enjoy this content, please help support the BAMF Podcast Patreon. Every dollar helps Mike give us the someday potential of getting donuts that he has so often promised and never handed out.
Jacob, you're going to get donuts. You keep talking like that. They're not going to be good donuts either, but you're going to get them.
We're doing a time. Hey, Mike, how long do you think you're going tonight?
I was going to wrap up right now.
Bye, folks.
Thanks for tuning into the BAMF podcast. Tonight is Movie Chat, and we're talking about time loop movies. I'd like to welcome my panel. Okay, that's enough of that. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Hey, for those of us who are running game companies, I feel like I should mention you've got until, I want to say it's December 6th to print books in time for Christmas. So, if you were perhaps thinking about giving that hard to shop for GM a copy of Cocaine Owlbear, available now in drive-thru RPG, you can still get that in print copy. And I was in Facebook jail this week because of Cocaine Owlbear.
Yeah, they thought you mentioned cocaine in the byline, and they think you're selling drugs.
Yeah.
Heck, even Deadpool and Wolverine was sketchy about it. They were like, no, don't say it. Don't say it.
Is there somebody out there successfully selling drugs on Facebook?
I'm confident there is.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Not that I know.
I'm sticking with I don't know, Mike. I have no input on that question.
I'm looking at Chuck because he's in Florida. He might be a neighbor of his. I don't know. So, all right, folks, thanks for tuning in to check out the BAMF Podcast Movie Talk. We're having a good time with these. This is our third one in a row. So maybe in a week or two, we'll talk about another kind of. You guys have a suggestion for another genre that'd be fun to talk about?
Yeah, Liam Neeson movies.
I'm in. That's all right. I can do that.
Yeah. Liam Neeson's.
I've been doing my personal rankings of movies on my blog, and I try to make sure that they are not normal things to rank, right? It's not like all the Star Wars movies. It was instead every movie that has the word star in the title, so I can determine whether Star Trek Nemesis is better or worse than, say, The Phantom Menace, right? Because those both have star in the title. And I've been trying to think of another off-the-wall topic, and I thought maybe I would rank all the Liam Neeson movies. With Krull obviously at the top.
Nick Cage movies.
Yeah, Nick Cage movies.
We could do 1 week Nick Cage, 1 week Liam Neeson. Why are those guys never in the same movie?
Well, in that case, we need to do Kevin Bacon movies.
I don't want to do Kevin Bacon movies. Last Kevin Bacon movie I saw was the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. And I had such high hopes for that fucking thing. And
I enjoyed that. I mean, it was no Halloween special, but I enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, you're a kinder man than I am. I was disappointed, but.
Well, wait. Do you care about the Guardians of the Galaxy movies?
I like the first two quite a bit. I was told the third one was just so I haven't seen that one.
Okay, well then you're kinder towards the movies than I am, which may be why I'm kinder towards the special than you are.
Okay, fair enough. In fairness, I've heard some people say the third one was excellent, and I've heard some people say the third one was awful. So I kind of, So,
I thought the third one was a really good movie, which I have no need to ever see again.
So I felt about Spice World. Anyway, on that happy note, let's call it a podcast. Folks, thanks for tuning into the BAMF podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rafferty. Today is Movie Chat, and we're talking about time loops.
Hey, Mike, how late are we going tonight?
I'm just going to sign off. I got nothing else. I can't follow.
Bye, folks.
Play the end music.
We have end music? You want the music again?
Yeah.
You
If
like this?
ever there was a show to do the music again.
Hey, and remember this music?
We got to start doing those again.
Those are a lot of fun. I like those. So, all right, folks. Hey, just for you guys know, for next time, video backgrounds are now supported in the studio.
Okay.
All right.
If you want to do a video background, I don't know where you download those. Microsoft Teams has them like built in. Talked to Jacob last night. I was in black and white with spooky. Anyway, we're ending this podcast. Talk to y'all later.
Mike, how late are we going tonight?
Bye, everyone.
Later.